The views and opinions expressed by the participants on this show are not necessarily those of Stewart Information Services Corporation, Stewart Title, or Stewart Insurance. Before you make any investment, you should seek the advice of your investment advisor or attorney.
Whether you're a real estate broker, realtor, homeowner, buyer, or seller, everything matters when it comes to real estate. This is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. Stewart Title's Bill Knapik and guests open the door to what really matters in owning, buying, and selling real estate. And now, Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title, brought to you by Stewart Insurance. Here to inform, entertain, and inspire, Bill Knapik.
Welcome to the show. It is Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I'm your host, Bill Knapik. Thank you for joining us once again. A very powerful real estate hour, especially at the time of broadcast. We're so glad that you're listening to us right now on AM 950 KPRC. So thank you for joining us. As always, if you missed this show or you hear some interesting facts, which we shoot for every time, you can hear the show again at stewart.com/radio. That's stewart.com/radio. In fact, you could also see the tremendous guests as we make YouTube videos of each and every show. This is show number 411, so there's about 400 plus shows right there at stewart.com/radio. It's about time to get down to business. We have tremendous guests today, two real estate professionals that I've met through Facebook, so it's interesting to see how real estate professionals use social media, especially Facebook, and we also are going to talk about some of the changes in property taxes, in the homestead exemption, and so much more with our first guest.
More powerful than a locomotive. Able to leap tall buildings at a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane.
Ali Gallant. He's the property tax superhero. American Property Tax Service. That's who it is. Ali, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me again, Bill.
How about that intro?
It's amazing.
It really is. We're so glad you're here. Property taxes. We here in Houston, Texas. Here in Texas, people love that there's no state income tax and love so many things about this great state. I've been here for a long time, but every now and then people say, "Oh, but the property taxes are so high." Your company is helping people with residential, but primarily commercial property taxes. So let's tell people about your company and what you're doing there.
Well, the company is called American Property Tax Services. We're in Stafford, Texas. Company is started and currently presidented by my father, Hanson Galan, and I am, I guess, the VP. And we've been around since 1980. We handle like all types of property, residential, commercial, industrial, business, personal property. And our strong focus is mainly on the commercial side, but I help a lot of people out with their residential needs if there's any.
Well, the goal, too, is for us as taxpayers, we want to pay the right amount of taxes. Taxes are important. It's important to pay our taxes. However, we don't want to pay too much. So it seems like, as someone, I don't have commercial property, but as someone that has, as you know, a home, the residential part, we want to make sure we're not paying too much. And companies like yours help commercial people and residential people not pay too much. Would that be fair to say?
It is.
And there's a way to do that, and that's why you're in business.
Well, you made mention earlier you have a residential property, you shouldn't be left out of it. If you're paying taxes, I don't care what kind of property type you have, you need to be making sure you're paying your fair share and not a penny over that. And it's good to kind of tweak that. You have a little bit extra money left at the end of the year, or you're paying your fair share already, probably less than your fair share. And then we just kind of check it out and make sure that you are where you need to be. If you're way overvalued, we help you. If you're way undervalued, we don't help you. We just say don't wake up the sleeping giant. Yeah, don't wake up the sleeping giant.
So as far as the things that we're going to talk about, the new changes as far as the homestead exemption, and there's other exemptions out there as well. But tell us about some of the things that you're doing that we should be mindful of to make sure that how do we know if we're paying too much in property taxes? Let's speak residential for a second.
So we're talking about the state of Texas, right? So I'm not going to narrow it down to any kind of county. Harris and Fort Bend is primarily going to be your listening base. So it's very easy to get on these websites. The first website, if you live in Harris County, it's www.hcad.org. You can go over there and search your property by owner name, by address. When you do pull up your account, you'll see that Either you have a homestead exemption or not. If you don't have one, there are quite a few ways where you can file your homestead, whether you want to do it electronically through your phone or you want to do it the old school way, blue ink signature on a piece of paper, including a driver's license, and you send that in and you qualify for the homestead.
So step one is make sure we have on our primary property a homestead exemption. And we say this, a lot of people here in Houston I already know that. Well, guess what? Here in Houston and Texas in general, we've had, I don't know, I hear different figures, thousands of people are moving, maybe 1,000 per day. So we have a lot of people that are brand new and their state may not have had a homestead exemption. Have you seen that?
I've seen that. In fact, you'd be shocked to know that even our folks that have lived here forever, a lot of them don't even know about their homestead exemption and how much they qualify for, if they're filing the right type of exemption, if they're a veteran, active veteran, if they have a deceased spouse, if they are over 65, if they have some kind of disability. These are all different kinds of exemptions, and you have to find out which one you qualify for. That way you know you're not overpaying and you're taking the maximum exemption. And for the people that are moving in, believe me, the ones that are moving in to Texas, they already know our laws because that's the reason they're coming here.
Might be there. Exactly. That's why they're on their way. That's why they're here. So it's good to know those things. As far as you mentioned the over 65 exemption as well. So what other exemptions should people think about as they qualify for them as the...
Well, there's the over 65. There's a surviving spouse exemption. So if your spouse passed away and they're over 55, then you get to qualify for that exemption. It's a pretty rich exemption. Then you have military exemption as far as veterans who have been disabled or a veteran who is deceased. Their family gets to carry on the exemption moving forward. But the most important thing I want to talk about right now is the newest change to the homestead law.
Brand new change for 2022. What is it?
Okay, so here it is. Previously, you would have to have lived in the house an entire year to get the exemption. I'll give you an example. If you buy the house in February of 2021, which is last year, you would not get the exemption at all for the entire year of 2021. You had to have been in there January 1 of 2021 or earlier in December of 2020 to qualify for the entire year of 2021.
And that never seemed fair to me.
It didn't. It's like common sense. So over 65, however, since the beginning of time, as soon as you turned 65, it doesn't matter when, you get that exemption on that property at that point in time. So that over 65 was common sense. Now, the regular homestead needed to follow suit, and we fixed that.
Well, someday that's something to look forward to. When I'm 65, that'll be cool to get that exemption. Too bad that's only 10 years away or so. But
I was going to say 15 years, but okay.
Yeah, oh, thank you, Blake. That sounds pretty good. So now the change will be...
The change will be as soon as you move in.
So I move in March 1st to some home.
You get it from March until the end of the year. They prorate it, which seems to me the most common sense thing to do.
Logical.
And I'd like to thank Greg Abbott for making that happen. It took a lot of maneuvering, but this is actually meant for the people that are moving into our state and basically common sense at the same time, so they could take advantage. Basically a welcome mat saying, you're here, let's take care of you.
That's a good idea. So all these years, it was never like that.
No, it wasn't. You had to be there 1/1 of that calendar tax year to qualify for that exemption. And now we've got that change to where as soon as you move in, you start getting the exemption. But you have to file for it. And you need something very important, a very important official government document.
And what is that?
And that's your Texas driver's license. You need to change the address. I can't stress this enough. Just get online, do it online. It's very simple. You just log into the Texas DMV, just change your address. The temporary one they email you works just fine.
So step number one, I'm moving from, and we hear about all these people from, we'll use California. I'm moving from California. I get here. I'm familiar with all the perks. That's why I moved. I get here. So one of the things I'm doing on my big to-do list is I go to the DMV, change my California's driver's license to a Texas driver's license, and the home that I just bought, now I can apply for the homestead exemption. And we're talking about the homestead exemption like everyone knows the value of that. But what is the homestead exemption in terms of value? Let's say I buy an even number, a $500,000 home, and then I put the homestead exemption on it. How much is that saving me, or what's the calculate?
Well, there's no exact science to this. The only thing I can tell you is this, because you live in different jurisdictions, and different jurisdictions give you different amounts of exemption, and you're in different tax rates, so all that comes together. So the best way to calculate this, just in the back of your mind, think about 18 to 20% less, which is big.
It's
when
big.
When you're spending $10,000 in taxes, that's close to $2,500, $3,000.
So when you say that, so if it's a $500,000 home, it'd be taxed at 18, 20% less. So that would be you're paying taxes on $480,000. Something like that.
No, it would be 20% less $500,000 in value. So let me just. That takes off $125,000. So you're basically at $375 as far as taxable value, and that's not the only thing. That's not the only thing the homestead exemption does for you. It also caps your value. So in case things go crazy in your neighborhood, like the Heights, the values just jump almost double overnight. This caps you at 10% from the previous year. So it does a lot of different things. It gives you a healthy discount on your taxes, and it also caps your value so you don't get basically taxed out of your own house like they're doing in other states.
A lot of those other states, by the way. And I want to say the disclaimer, I am not an attorney, but I will reference last week's show as we had Jay Paxton, real estate attorney, on. He mentioned the homestead exemption, if I recall correctly, also gives you a protection thing. I forget if it was bankruptcy, but there's another protection afforded to you as you have your primary residence at the homestead exemption, right? So other than that, we can only have one. We're saying things that people already know, some of them, but you can only have a homestead exemption at one home, right?
I'll give you a real good example. A lot of us like to have a lake house or a beach house. So
Yes.
the lake house would be in Conroe, the beach house would be in Galveston. You're only allowed a homestead exemption on one. Now, please choose wisely. Put it to you this way. It's all value driven. So wherever you want to claim your homestead, make sure that the driver's license matches that address, and everything should be okay.
So that's the key, the driver's license.
And also you want to make sure you check your mail pretty regularly, because they send out little postcards to say, are you still living at this address? If you do not respond to that, there's a chance they may remove your homestead and you have to reapply for another one.
I'm thinking about mail I've gotten recently. I don't know about that. I think I got something, and I thought it was okay. So you need to reply to them. Bottom line.
You need to reply. It's a simple check mark you put in. It's a postcard. You send it back. Before I even start with the commercial, there's one other key thing that I need to address as far as homes and residents are concerned.
Okay.
So there's a correction motion that we can file. Previously, the property had to be appraised over a third to qualify for the exemption, to qualify for the hearing. Now I'm talking about value hearing. Let's just say your $500,000 house, right? Mm-hmm. And you forgot to protest, and this is your primary residence. Well, the old law said that your primary residence had to be valued over a third of the market value. Now there's one, if you're claiming this property as your homestead, it's no longer a third, it's only 25%. So if they overvalued you by 25%, then you qualify for this hearing. And basically, it's probably a house you just bought. You'll have the closing statement for, commissions paid to the real estate professionals that were handling the transaction, and it's a legit transaction. So you'll probably get the value you put for what you paid, and that really helps out a lot of people that forget to protest or just moved and don't know that particular law itself.
Well, in fact, I remember back in the 80s, I think it was, where I first became familiar with the concept of protesting your evaluation on your houses. I don't know if other states do that or not, but here it's a yearly exercise, and that's in many cases where people use companies like yours, American Property Tax Service, to help them protest, to do that work for them, because you have all the facts and figures and the expertise.
Yeah, I mean, we can help you out. If I can't help you, I can steer you into the direction of people who can. Previous guest on one of your shows, Jen of All Trades, Jen Alcorda, she is very good at residential. In fact, she handles my personal residence in Fort Bend County.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And she's a regular listener to the show, so we'll say hello to Jen. So, also, quick word on commercial. We're talking with Ali Galan, American Property Tax Services. We have about a minute and a half left. Ali, commercial properties. What do
Okay,
I
so
do?
commercial properties, it's pretty much going to follow the same standard as residential properties. If you just recently purchased it, you'll have a closing statement. If you have, for example, an apartment complex or a shopping center, something like that, that's all driven off of income. So just be prepared to pull out your income and expense and your rent roll as part of your major key piece of evidence in your tax protest. Now, one thing I wanted to mention broadly over all types of properties. So, for example, if your house is on for $200,000 and the county comes back and says, well, we think your property is worth $250,000, and you tell yourself, well, I could never sell it for $250,000. Houses are selling for about $180 to $200 in my neighborhood. Well, now you have a problem, and we can get that fixed. We can go out there and scrape the sales and find out if that's accurate or not. But on the flip side of that coin, if your property is valued by the county for $200,000 and you can easily sell it for $300,000, I would just stay quiet and don't wake the sleeping giant. Well, I'm here to help you guys anytime, obviously during business hours. Just give us a call. Again, it's American Property Tax Service in Stafford, Texas. Pull it up on Google and give us a call.
And the number is?
The phone number is 281-240-0101. 281-240-0101.
Thank you so much, Ali Galan, American Property Tax Service.
If you're a real estate professional, then listen closely. Cyber criminals are targeting our industry. They are impersonating real estate professionals, homebuyers, sellers, and title agents. Their goal is to gain access to your inboxes, computers, and clients so they can steal information and funds. Does your business insurance offset these risks? Not sure? Contact Stewart Insurance to determine if your business is properly insured. Visit stewartinsurance.com or call 866-798-2827. Visit stewartinsurance.com or call 866-798-2827.
To give you a phone.
Let's welcome Renee Gibson. She is with Compass Real Estate right here in the fourth largest city, Houston, Texas. Renee, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Compass Real Estate, we hear a lot about that, but in case somebody is listening from far away, not in the Houston, Texas area, let's tell people about your company, Compass.
So I recently moved there. I've 17 years in the business. And you basically get hand-selected by Compass to come to them. You don't choose them, they choose you. And it's based off of your production and also your heart. They have a committee that reviews you as an agent overall, the overall picture. And you're kind of voted in or not, which is a plus because they are all about, quality over quantity. I was very honored, to be considered to work with their brokerage.
So you got the call, you responded, and you made the move, and you also posted it on Facebook. That's how I found one of the ways I found out about you.
Right. Yeah. So it's funny because when this business first started, I remember that I started with a database with 250 labels, which seems so sweet to me at this point. Now, I have over 10,000 followers.
Now you're talking about Facebook.
Yes, on Facebook. And so thankfully, I've kind of stayed in touch with the trends in the market, and I do what it takes to hopefully keep them interested enough. And sometimes that's talking about real estate. Sometimes that's talking about what's going on in Houston. Sometimes it's sharing personal things about my life. So, I feel like anyone that wants to hire a real estate agent now, they vet you before they ever meet you, kind of like you did. You already knew a little bit about me and had a good sense of who I was.
Exactly. In fact, I was talking to someone about that, and when we are in the process of choosing a professional for anything, if we see them on any kind of platform, whether it's a Facebook situation or maybe we hear them on the radio show, and by the time you meet that person, and that goes both ways, buyers, sellers, real estate professionals, it's kind of nice sometimes. We accelerate the process by, I feel like I know you. Now let's get down to business. Sometimes that's how it works.
Well, and, I think buyers and sellers have so many tools to get their information from now. So where does a real estate agent stay relevant and important in your life? One of the ways is staying on top of the market and knowing what's trending and the rates and what your inventory's like out there. But also what's been important for me in my business is my heart. And it's like every family that I work with, I give my entire heart to. It's very important for me to connect with that client so that this is not just one transaction. Even if they never bought another home again, I'm the person that will take them soup, watch their child, like whatever it takes.
Well, those are a lot of extra services. I like that.
Well, I've packed boxes before. I care about them so much that, and I know that comes across through my social media. I'd have no other platform to do that if I didn't have that.
Well, when we talk about social media and the tools, there are so many tools to use. But again, I met you through Facebook, got to know you before really meeting you. What other social media platforms, if any, do you use? It seems like Facebook to me is like the easiest to use, but what else do you use?
I have an Instagram. Having said that, that's more lightly peppered for me just because I haven't hired a social media director. And, it's become a full-time job to keep up with social in addition to, serving your clients with real estate. I just did my first TikTok. And I'm sure 5 years from now, I'll be like, oh, my God, that was awkward. But, as you...
Can't wait to see it. I love it. Awkward sells sometimes.
It does. Like, the more they laugh, the more they remember you. And so I just started that. You have to be open. And even as we get older, and maybe that's not where our comfort level is, that's what people are watching. I had a film crew to come in and film me, and I had 65,000 viewers. And I'm like, oh, my God. That's so exciting. 65,000 people, that might get to know me. And then you see a cute little dog video or a cute little kid video on TikTok that gets 4 million viewers. And it's like, okay, time for me to learn a few dances or something, entertaining.
Or teach your dog to dance.
Well, Winston is a movie star within his own right. He's known all over the world.
How many pounds? Now, by the way, we'll tell people who Winston is. That's really how you came on my radar, not just on Facebook, but because of Winston, because I looked at this guy, and I think he had some health challenges, but before I even knew that about him, he was super cute, and there's just something about him. When I looked at him, I felt that I met him before. Just a beautiful little guy. But let's tell people about Winston, and how many pounds is he? He's a little guy.
He's about 8 pounds, and, again, a way for people to feel connected to you is to know a little bit about your personal life. I try not to talk about dating, so I talk about Winston. And he did have some health challenges, and I'd just like to give a shout out to Texas A&M, their veterinary school. They saved his life.
I remember that.
Yes, and through my audience, I reached out and said, this is what we're going through. This is what we've tried. Does anyone else have some suggestions? And the comments just came flooding in. Voila. A year later, he's still going strong.
Well, I've said this before on the show, and it's been a long time, but I will give you a suggestion, and that is canines, and sometimes even cats, love this show. It seems scientific studies have proven it to be therapeutic. So if Winston isn't listening to the show that his mom's on, well, that's the start, and then thereafter, he'll be in good shape. I'm just guessing. No guarantees, though.
Well, for sure. I care as much about Winston as I do clients and about real estate and the Houston market. You don't know how lucky we are here. I have friends from all over the country that sell at all price points at a very successful level. We still are the lowest price with lower taxes, with the most job opportunities. Houston is the greatest place ever.
It's exploding, yeah, and it's not slowing down, no doubt about that. Let's tell people as far as how you're approaching real estate. We're talking with Renee Gibson with Compass Real Estate right here in Houston, Texas, the fourth largest city. Renee, so how do you approach real estate as far as your profession goes? Do you work a certain geography or?
People always ask me that question, and, it would be nice to say, I'm predominant in this one neighborhood. But again, when you lead with your heart, people are referred to me. I'm very grateful and thankful. All of my business comes from referrals, whether that's agent-to-agent referral or whether that's a past client referral. I'm just very lucky in that regard. And so when you sell all over Houston, it's really important that that becomes your life, because you want to be an expert in whatever you're listing or whatever you're showing. And so I keep my finger on the pulse all over this city as best as I possibly can.
And as you're serving buyers and sellers, do you average where it's even amount of buyers and sellers, or do you work more with buyers or sellers?
It's whatever that I am blessed with through the referral. I have to say that I did look at my numbers last year because I have a coach coming up that's going to be asking those questions, and it was about even. I was a little surprised.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought I had more of one, but it was pretty neck and neck, and it all just comes down to whatever someone needs, that's what I'm there to help them with.
And here we are, 2022, brand new year. As we approached this year in your real estate world, and you looked at it, it's interesting how you're talking about, you looked at the past numbers, and I'm sure you were thinking, where do I go from here? As you prepared for the new year that we're in right now, give us an idea of some of the mindset and some of the things you think about now that we're in 22 and what you're going to do to keep this as successful or exceed even 2021.
Well, as we all know, COVID changed a lot of things for a lot of people, and that includes maybe 6 out of 10 people are working from home now. Home offices with privacy doors, became more important than ever. Our inventory is super low in Houston right now, and so finding good listings to get out there, it's critical. Our inventory is just too low right now. Interest rates are starting to rise, and so you've really got to be in touch with your preferred lenders to stay on top of that market. For instance, I had a buyer that applied last week. It was one rate at the beginning of the week. At the end of the week, it was significantly different. And so we are now choosing our shopping time based on when that goes back down, we're going to grab it. And so I think it's very important, if you're interested in buying in 2022, hire a great realtor, make sure they have a great lender partner and a great title partner.
Timing is everything more than ever, right?
Timing is important. And, we never thought that interest rates would go from 2.8 to 4% overnight. And yet that's our reality. That's what's happening right now. On Thursday, it was 3.99. And so for people that are just on the cusp, and they're looking at their debt to income ratio, they're looking at how much house they can afford, there's a big difference between 2.8 and 4. Right. And so if you're shopping for a $400,000 home and all of a sudden that puts your DTI a little too high, you may have to go down in price point. And now that may mean that you can't afford the neighborhood that you were hoping for. So it's very important to get a professional that's really watching this market on every aspect.
Timing is everything. Before we close the segment, about 30 seconds, what else do you want people to know before we tell them how to reach you?
What I'd really like for the Houston community to know is know the right questions to ask when you're hiring a realtor. Calling randomly off of a sign as a buyer doesn't really help you. You want your own representation. Even if you're walking into a builder, it's important to take a realtor with you on that first visit. The other thing that I would hope you'd remember is to hire someone that has been in the business long enough to really be the expert and to guide you properly.
And how can people reach you, Renee Gibson?
My phone number is 713-449-8787. It's 713-449-8787.
Thank you so much, Renee Gibson. Let's welcome Stacy Brown with Texas Preferred Properties right here in Houston, Texas. Hey, Stacy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
You must love real estate because you have been in the real estate world like a million years, or
thank you.
Well, you said you had a lot of experience.
29 years.
That's a long time.
It seems like just yesterday, but yes, 29 years.
And before we tell people about your company, just right on that note of the longevity, you have seen some things, real estate develop, the changes, the contracts change in all these years. It's fascinating. Here we are today, 2022. Give us just a word on all these changes and what you've seen.
Have. Well, that is very true. The contracts are longer, that's for sure. I wasn't around when they had double-digit interest rate, thank goodness, but the interest rates are certainly lower. Just all kind of changes, and then the technology has really made it very interesting. Especially, my specialty is marketing, and so it's really made my job fun and interesting.
Yeah, real estate, that's one of the things. All the transactions, when we look at right now, even today, if you have 10 transactions on your desk, each one's a little bit different, let alone how they've evolved through time. But let's tell people, Texas Preferred Properties, let's tell people about your company.
So, Bill, I had my own company, back in mid-1995-ish, I guess, Texas Riviera Properties. And I sold that to Coldwell Banker, and then I got into, I moved to Colorado, Steamboat Springs. Something about me, whatever I'm doing, I have to have fun, and I kind of gravitate towards communities that are vacation, so Steamboat, Rockport, and the like. But
well, wait a minute. Let's hit that real quick. Steamboat Springs, right?
Colorado.
It's beautiful there.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
And then why would you
I had
come
to
back?
pinch myself. Well, that's a good question.
Now, they do have state income tax, so you're getting a lot of taxation, but
your property taxes were a lot lower. But what happened 2008, need I say more?
Wow.
So we were in a booming town. We had also opened a printing company with my husband, and it just all came to a stop. And so nobody was buying real estate, nobody was buying printing, and that's how I ended up in Houston. And my husband said at the time, people come to Houston to get well or to go to work. And so that's what we did. We came here to go to work. And kind of on a side note, when I was also a new mother, so when we arrived in Houston, my son was, I believe, 2.5 maybe. So I came here, the market was down, and I thought, well, real estate is all I've ever done. I don't really want to start with a new baby selling in a market that I don't really know, because people hire us to be experts in what we're doing, right? So I got off and I bought an insurance company, and that's how I ended up in Fredericksburg, Texas, which is another resort community.
Why'd you leave Fredericksburg? That's a nice place. See, that's going to be my question for everything. Why'd you leave?
Well, that's a good question. Why did I leave?
Because people love that.
They do, and I loved it. Well, it was hard. My husband was here in Houston, and I was there. We were going back and forth, and it was just kind of a struggle. I sold that company to, actually, the gentleman, I beat him out of, it was an existing agency, and so he came in, he bought it, and I came here to Houston. And so when I came to Houston, I kind of, again, the market was still down. So I got into home warranty. I believe that's what I was doing when I met you 10 years ago,
about
12
10
years ago.
Right? Home warranty business.
Right. And then I sashayed into the title marketing business, and then worked for a local builder, David Weekley, here for the last 5 years. And then back in February of this year, I left, and I'm finally ready to get back into the real estate world, broker
now,
world.
also, you're a broker as well, right?
I am.
So in these years of real estate, you've done a lot of things, have a knowledge of a lot of different markets, and I don't think I said, but we'll say it right now, you also are an author of a book. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, that's kind of how I found you, is on Facebook. It was reminded, there's Stacy Brown.
You saw
and
right?
I saw you advertise your book. And by the way, it's a free book.
It is.
That's a super thing. But before we get to the book right quick, let's tell people about the market and what you're doing in the real estate world, helping buyers and sellers right now. And how's that going?
Well, it's going well. I think I just said a few minutes ago, my specialty is marketing. I absolutely love it. I love the target marketing and all the things that we can now do with social media. So that's kind of where my focus is. And I've got a really good friend. I just listed her home, and I'd been working with her for a while on other things. And I thought, the questions she would ask me, I thought, she's accomplished in her own right? But it was interesting to me that people who are not in real estate, they really don't understand and know the process. So that's kind of how the book came to be. It's like, 29 years, that's a lot of years of taking notes and experience and resources and all of that. So kind of put it together.
You used a key word there, a process. It is a process, and even the process has changed, not just in 29 years or so, it's changed in the last year.
Oh,
it's
every day.
Ever changing.
Right?
So let's tell people, the title of your book is
How to Sell Your Home Fast and for Top Dollar.
That's what I want to do.
That's what everybody wants to know.
Sell it
I was kind of using my friend Pam as a example, but she would just ask me things that I thought everybody knew. That if you're going to put your home, you want to take things out, declutter. You want to make it, take the pictures away, get it cleaned, get it painted. The curb appeal is very important. All of these things. It's just people really don't know where to start. They don't know anything about financing. Just, they really do. They need us. And so.
And there's a lot of basics to consider as the seller and even as the buyer. Let's tell people right off the bat, they can get the book. How do they get it? Because it's nice. You've made it accessible. Your book is digital, so it's easy. Someone could have it right away.
Right away. So you just you request it, and it is immediately sent to your inbox.
So the definition of instant gratification,
right? I mean, and I'm giving it away. So I love to help people that way. So it's on Instagram, Texas or Text Preferred Properties. Then you can call me or text me and request it, and I can send it that way. 832-707-1496. 832-707-1496. Call or text. And then, of course, it's on Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter and all of those places under Texas Preferred Properties.
So just curious, as many people, including me, I have not done it yet. People want to write I want to write a book. How long did it take you to write this book?
Well, it was kind of, once I actually got down to do it, it didn't take that long. It was just a couple, keeping notes over the years. Again, 29 years of notes, right? And just ideas and thoughts. And people would joke, you should write a book, because we have funny stories about things that come up and happen, right? And that's not what this book is about. Maybe I'll do another one. But just kind of a collection of notes and ideas and, like I said, resources and things like that. So really didn't take that long. I don't want to downplay it, but once I got down to it, it was an easy process.
You're a person of focus. I could tell that. As far as geographically, Stacy, we're talking with Stacy Brown, Texas Preferred Properties. As you serve buyers and sellers, do you focus on a geography, or how do you do it?
So I am focusing mainly on the Houston inner loop, and I do go all the way up to, I just mentioned, I have a fascination with the Hill Country. I used to live there. I have family in Round Top, Johnson City.
Are you selling real estate in Round Top,
too? And so going all the way into the Texas Hill Country. So my company is Texas Preferred Properties, and I have joined with Texas Premier Realty. They are members. They're out of San Antonio. And they are members of over 20 boards in Texas, multiple listing services. So that gives me the access and the tools that I need to kind of expand my business as a solo practice.
Well, those are two different worlds. Inside the loop of Houston, and I refer to Houston like the planet Saturn, because there's several loops and rings that go around it.
Absolutely.
But inside the center loop, that's urban city life, I guess we could call it. But then you're talking about the hill country and things like that. And for people listening on the internet outside of Houston, that's kind of the country, or maybe even we could call it farm and ranch. But as far as, let's say, Round Top goes, if someone wanted to buy a property there, what are the price points?
It's very hard right now to even find. I mean, everybody.
There's not even a listing, is
I mean, there are, but the prices are high, and there's just limited inventory, and it's the same throughout the Texas Hill Country, because again, as Renee was just saying, everybody's kind of working from home, and now we have what we call digital nomads. People can literally work from anywhere. So would you rather work from an inner city, or would you rather be out in the hill country with a nice view or a past, so people, you're seeing more and more people move out and away from the city. So it's hard to find. It's out there, but it's if you can find an acre of, not an acre, 2 to 3 acres for under $500,000, you're lucky.
Because what's interesting, my son lives in San Antonio, and I live almost in Katy. So from Katy to San Antonio, there's a lot of land in between. But what I see when I look at MLS listings, Realtor.com, and all that, I see a lot of those are all in demand, those places.
They are.
Especially, it seems like north of 10. I don't know.
They are. Well, I grew up in Dallas, actually in Plano, and the joke used to be back in the day that if you're driving up 35 and you blink, you might miss it. Well, now Plano's huge, and Frisco, McKinney, and Allen, and Anna.
I was just
same
in McKinney.
Thing with here.
Yeah.
So, it's just the further you go out, it's just, you're seeing more and more building and development.
Quick word. You've been in the business a long time. No one can predict the future. What do you think is going to happen in 2022? What's your feeling based on your knowledge and experience and just guesswork?
I think 2022 is going to be another great year for us. We're seeing I think, of course, I was in the new home construction business for the last 5 years. So that's kind of what I know. And it was busy and active. I think that's going to slow down, mainly because land is so expensive. Builders are kind of slowing down from purchasing land. It's hard to get, the materials are expensive, and it's hard sometimes to get the parts. I'm waiting on a home that was supposed to close last month, and we might be a month or two out because we're waiting on a part for a furnace. And so I think that resale is going to be really active. I think interest rates are going to continue to creep up. And I think it's going to be a good year.
And before we close this segment, Stacy Brown, 30 seconds or so, what else should we know?
Well, I would love to give you a copy of my free book.
I got mine, but a lot of people out there listening do not. Let's tell them how to get the book.
If you're thinking about putting your home on the market and you don't know where to start, absolutely you need it. It is free. Call me at 832-707-1496 or text. Send me an email, Stacy, STACY, at TexasPreferredProperties.com, 832-707-1496.
Thank you so much, Stacy Brown.
Thank you.
Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title would not be possible without our partner, Stewart Insurance. With a focus in real estate and a special focus on real estate brokers, Stewart Insurance creates insurance plans to address the risks facing our industry today. They invest a significant amount of time helping real estate broker owners offset and manage their risks. Here he is, Mr. Insurance, John Bramlett with Stewart Insurance.
Hello, Bill. Happy New Year as always.
That's the first that I've called you Mr. Insurance.
I'm Mr. Insurance.
Well,
I like that.
Well, I'm glad you did. We'll see how it fits, work with it a little bit. And here we are. Once again, the new year is just marching on in a expedient and tremendous way so far. What have you brought for us today, John?
There have been some really interesting articles in our industry publications, specifically Insurance Journal, on just kind of retrospect, looking at 2021 and then expectations for 2022. And a lot of them have been in and around cyber coverage. And I know we've talked about that.
Won't go away.
That's the issue, is it's not going away. And it's becoming more and more prevalent. And I think it's important that our listeners that are title and attorney agents or real estate brokers, property management firms, understand the dangers that are out there and the risks that are out there. And there were just some really interesting facts and points that they brought up as we move into the new year.
We have to be mindful, buyers and sellers, regular people, but certainly real estate professionals of all sorts. There are so many things. First of all, we're busier than normal. Remember what normal was? A long time ago, there was a thing called normal. But we're busier than we used to be, so that means transactions are more voluminous, and then yet the landscape of threats, the dangers, are even more so.
Well, and really, one of the guests made a really interesting comment and really, to me, simplified what this is. And it's simply people are using technology to disrupt your business. That's all a cybercrime is they're finding a way to use technology to disrupt your business. What these industry leaders were seeing is that many times, and this is across the board, not just real estate businesses, but across the board, folks don't know where to get started. So they almost freeze. The analysis or paralysis by analysis versus just get started. Do something to try to protect yourself. What can you do to minimize the risks that are out there? How can you be proactive, whether it be multifaceted authentication that we've talked about, or having offsite backups? How would you respond? Do you have a plan if you would respond to a cyber attack? We all probably have business interruption plans. So if we're in the greater Houston area and we're running a business and a hurricane's coming, we probably have a plan on how do we adapt to that. Do you have a plan if you have a cyber attack? And then, how do you respond? Do you have coverage? Can you be properly insured? Are you going to be, or is your business going to be wiped out if somebody holds your data or the data of your customers for ransom? Because the thing that's interesting is there's all the things that you can do and need to do and should do. But the bottom line is that chances are if something happens, it's a human error. Somebody's let somebody into your system. Therefore, it's important that, you consider that insurance coverage along with some of the things you can do preventive, as well as some things that you need to do to be prepared in case it does happen.
In fact, I'm putting myself in the place of a real estate professional or realtor might be, and there'll be a lot of them in 2022, as all years, a real estate professional that's looking to change their brokers. And I'm sure in their mind that person would have a list of questions to ask the broker, vice versa, as they check each other out. But I think one of the things I would ask as the realtor is, are you covered? Do you have broker E&O? Do you have those kinds of insurance to protect me, to protect my buyers and sellers?
Well, absolutely, because you could, not only could it be the information that the brokerage would have regarding clients, prospective clients, but it also could be information that they have about you as an employee, or it could be, some of the correspondence. If there was some sensitive correspondence that's taken place, and the bad actors get access to that, and they hold it hostage, because it really doesn't matter the size of the business or the type of the business or the location of the business. But some of the things that do matter is their access to critical personal information or their access to organizations that have transactional funds. So if you think about our industry, if you're a property manager, chances are you've got access to at least some fund account where you're handling rents, or you've got an account that you manage for your clients so you can do minimal repairs. If you're a title or attorney agent, you're doing a closing. If you're a real estate broker, think about all the information you have on a client. So it's really critical, and it's not just big and small, because sometimes a smaller firm is low-hanging fruit because they don't have the technology backup. They don't have the IT infrastructure, or they may just assume everything is okay. But as you said, we're working remotely. I'm at home. Maybe my kid gets on my work computer because it's easier than booting up the other computer we have, or our computer at home is not working, so I'll let my kid use my computer, and they click on an email, and now we've got an issue.
It's interesting, those things that can happen. We have to be ever wary and be careful as we progress, whatever we do, but certainly real estate professionals of all sorts, we need to be careful as we navigate 2022 and whatever it's going to bring, and all the opportunities and even challenges.
Absolutely. It really is critical, and one of the ways that you can go about preparing is to make sure that you are properly insured, or at least have the conversation so you understand what are some of the things that I can do from a risk perspective. And a good IT partner can help you with that. A good insurance partner can give you some suggestions and recommendations, because what we're hearing from the insurance companies that we work with, in many cases, if you don't have MFA, multifaceted authentication, if you don't have backup, if you don't have a sustainable, secure website, they might not even consider covering you.
You might not even get the insurance.
You might not have the opportunity to get the insurance. What they're saying is, in order for us to take on some of that risk, you've got to take on some responsibility.
That's very interesting, because, again, it just shows things are changing ever more. And you mentioned, as you started out today, with the word cyber, I'm reading the Wall Street Journal all the time, and there's almost something about it every day, or at least every other day, cyber threats of one sort or another.
Oh, there is. Citigroup just paid a significant amount of money, hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements because they were hacked. Because if you think about it, so somebody gets into your system and they follow along, and at some point they grab that information and they hold it hostage. So they insert the ransomware or the malware, they hold it hostage, and they say, all right, you can't do anything until you pay us. Now, in some cases, people, if they've got some backups, they may not pay. Or if they do pay, then they may get that information back. As we talked about several weeks ago, we're sometimes seeing these cyber criminals returning the information more often at 100%. Therefore, so when they do the next attack, there's a better chance of them getting paid in full. But what you don't know is, did they keep a copy? So down the line,
so every crime show that I've ever watched is coming into play. The copy, you give me this, we got.
Yeah. So it's
kidnapping is as old as anything as far as crime goes, and
exactly.
That's what it is. You're kidnapping the information.
It's a different type of ransom. It's a different type of kidnapping. Exactly right. And while we can't prevent it always from happening, because technology is changing and they're very sophisticated, what we can do is minimize that risk, so that if it does happen, and in some cases they're talking about it's not when or how, but how much. So when it does happen, does it hinder your business or does it shut your business down?
Very interesting. Before we close the segment, John, what else do you want people to know?
Well, if they'd like to talk about being properly insured, if they'd like to learn more about cyber coverage, they can reach us at 866-798-2827. Stewart Insurance, as an independent insurance broker, we have relationships with a variety of insurance companies focusing on the real estate world. If you're a homeowner, renter, own a motorcycle, a car, and you'd like some coverage and you'd like to be properly insured, we've got a team that can help you with that as well.
What if I have a lake house?
If you have a lake house, we can help you with that, Bill.
I like when someone mentioned that earlier in the show. It made me want to get one. I don't have one yet. In the meantime, John, once again, someone wants to reach out. You're helping people all over the United States, not just the people hearing us at the time of broadcast. What do they do?
They can call us at 866-798-2827. They can email us at stewartinsurance@stewart.com. If they'd like to learn more, they can visit us at stewartinsurance.com.
Thank you so much, John Bramlett with Stewart Insurance. Go to stewartinsurance.com and you can see the full menu. It's right there.
It's right there.
And as we close the show, we were welcoming back Ali Galan, American Property Tax. He's the property tax superhero. Ali, what else should we know?
Well, just make sure your homestead is current. If it's not, make sure you get that done. Make sure you protest your values. Again, I didn't get into this earlier, but when you're protesting your values, you can do it online as well.
Or we can incorporate the help of an expert like you.
Or you can do that as well.
And tell people real quick, the change in the homestead is if I buy a home February, March, June, any of those months, as long as I have my driver's license, I could now get, this is a brand new change.
It's a brand new change happening 1/1 of 2022. Whenever you move in, you get the exemption from that day forward.
And it just makes sense, Mr. Spock.
Yes, it does.
And let's tell people how they can reach you.
Okay, so you can give us a call at 281-240-0101. Again, it's 281-240-0101, American Property Tax Service in Stafford, Texas.
Thank you, Ali Galan. And she is back with Compass Real Estate, Renee Gibson. Renee, welcome back to the show. And as we wind things up, what else do you want people to know?
What I really want people to know is that in 2022, if you're ready to purchase a home, now's the time to start shopping before the rates go up. And if you are a seller, absolutely, please contact me. Let me talk to you about staging, about getting your home ready and getting it on the market now. There's low inventory. If you want to make the most money, now's the time to get listed in the next 90 days.
And all things considered right now in this real estate, this dynamic real estate world, not just here in Houston, Texas, but far beyond, timing is everything. Renee Gibson, how can people reach you?
713-449-8787. It's 713-449-8787.
And Winston, if you're listening, I'm saying hi. You're super as far as I'm concerned, isn't he?
Yes. We all have people we love.
Thank you, Winston, and thank you, Renee Gibson. She's back. Stacy Brown, Texas Preferred Properties. Hey, Stacy, welcome back.
Thank you.
And you're the author. We'll remind people once again of the book that's called
How to Sell Your Home Fast and for Top Dollar.
So, do you have a dog, by the way?
I do have I have two Australian Shepherds.
Two more listeners. What are their names?
Riley and Shelby.
And Stacy, before we close, what else do we want to know?
So one of my passion, I love to flip homes. And so if you are thinking, okay, I have a property, or maybe it's your home, maybe it's investment, I'd love to come in and say, okay, this is what we can do. So I didn't mention that earlier, but that's just one of my passions.
You're pretty busy.
We can move walls, we can do all kinds of things, but call me. It's just what I love to do.
And your number is?
832-707-1496. 832-707-1496.
And thank you all for listening to Real Estate Matters with Stewart Title. I'm your host, Bill Knapik, together with John Bramlett, Tom Carpentier, Larry Warren, and Justin Ramirez. By the way, Justin, our new sales manager out there for Stewart Title, all our business development officers, we appreciate you all listening, and the team of Stewart Insurance and Stewart Title are glad that you're part of the show. Just go to stewart.com/radio to see and hear the show. That's stewart.com/radio, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening.